very warm welcome from Vienna, the stage here from the Brutkasten. The Brutkasten is the leading platform in Austria for startups and innovation. And my name is Martin Pacher, and it's an honor for me also to host here this panel today on Deep Tech Ventures. And I want now to introduce our guests and experts who are joining this discussion on the topic what are the success factors for cooperation between corporates and startups. Let me introduce here Mario Mayerthaler from A1.
Hi everyone.
You
Thanks
are
for introducing.
You are the Group Innovation Director and also working with lots of startups together. And then we also have Michael Chick here from Invenium Data Insights. Hello. Hello. Nice.
Hello,
regards to Graz. Nice to have you here. And then we have Alexandre Massart. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Perfect. You already joined another panel today already on almost the same topic, but we're gonna go here also really close into some examples, and also want to highlight this topic about this cooperation between startups with these examples. And last but not least, I also want introduce Shimrit Samuel from Israel, corporate consultant.
Hi, very happy to be here. Although I would have been happier to be in Vienna, where I was supposed to be on my recent birthday. So it's the loveliest city, I think.
Perfect. Hopefully you can join us here in Vienna soon. We are looking forward, and next time we could have a panel discussion like here in our studio here in Vienna.
I'd love to.
Perfect. I want now hand over to Mario. Mario, maybe you can provide us some with some insights about A1 and also your startup program, because we have like a really big international audience. Maybe you can give us some insights also how this innovation program is incorporated into the A1 corporate.
Many thanks for the word. Yeah, we are A1, so we are the CEE leading telco. So we are operating in Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Northern Macedonia, Bulgaria, and Belarus. And we have 25 million customers, B2B and B2C. And we consider us always as a leader in innovation, and thereof we started 8 years ago to start our engagement into startups. And in the beginning, of course, it was quite unstructured. It was simply, okay, there is something going on, we need to tap into that. And in the meantime, it's a real program. It's an established program with 25 plus startups. I think our startups are having more than 300 FTEs all over. And we have a clear program with startups from all our footprint. So it's not only Austrian startups, it's also Croatian and so on. So we really try to foster also our engagement in the CE region. What we're offering to the startups is, first of all, that what startups are interested most is, of course, the access to our customer base, because everyone is keen on selling the product once it's there. So this is our biggest asset, combined with our sales force, because we have access to C2C and C2B customers. So we have different parts which we can offer to the startups. The one thing is really selling the products, but also creating and co-developing together, promotion of the product, of course, but also investing into startups. And last but not least, we have also physical space which we can own to the startups. So each startup, there is a different type of cooperation, but at the end, of course, the final goal is to make revenues, because that's what it's for.
Yeah. And one of these startups is Invenium Insights, and Michael is also joining. So maybe, Michael, you can give us a short introduction what you're doing, and also how you got into a collaboration with A1.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Invenium Data Insights is a company which works with telco data, so really mobile phone data in an anonymized way, to analyze it, to do some mobility analytics. And I was 8 years ago at the university in Graz here, and came from the transportation area and went to A1 to get from them data for different research projects. And then we had different cooperations in some research work together in Austria, 5 years. And then at the end of the year 2016, we said, okay, there could be a possibility to go out of the university to develop a spin-off, which is now Invenium called, and then also A1 Telekom Austria Group, so not the Austrian partner. So the holding got a stake also of Invenium, and now we're working since around about 3.5 years together.
How is
in
this
this
cooperation going on? So in which projects you are working for?
What we are doing, we are really using mobile phone data, movements of mobile phone data in different areas. Use cases are, for example, branches are the mobility analytics, how people are moving from origin destination from one municipality to other municipality. For example, analyzing people in the public transport. We're analyzing tourists in different tourist regions. We're analyzing big locations, where are people coming from, where are they going, how is the dwell time, and so on. Really, it's the focus is really mobility analytics in different branches.
You already attended a panel today on this similar topic, but maybe you can also introduce again for our community. Maybe there are some people jumped in new.
Introduce myself, you mean?
Yeah, yes, please.
Sure. So, well, I'm in the base, I'm a physicist, and I attended the army also in a technological unit, and I think closing the loop 10 years later, this is most of the groups that I'm working with. But I was a partner in a VC, so I had the privilege of the perspective of an investor and sitting in boards and fostering companies from seed and pre-seed. I was also working with corporates previously at EMC and collaborating also with Intel and Western Digital. And on the other hand, I'm working closely with startups now in the recent year, very directly with startups creating machine learning and machine learning automation. So I'm just a geek and I like people. So the combination of being a geek and liking people led me to working with startups.
Perfect. It's a good combination. Yeah, I also want to hand over to Alexandre. Maybe you also can give us a short introduction about yourself and how is your connection to this startup corporate cooperation.
Hi. Yeah, so my name is Alexandre Massart. I actually started very early with being myself an entrepreneur, having a company in Switzerland, long time ago. Then I had the pleasure or the luck to Silicon Valley, where I did a lot around innovation, for Visa, and I also slipped into the corporate venturing program there. That was very successful, where we mainly invested in later stage. However, we had always a very open eye for R&D. For deep tech, for what is out new there, especially around security or authentication, which is very key for Visa. And then I slipped again back on the entrepreneur side, and now since quite some time I do angel investments, and now I'm in a process also of raising a fund around deep tech actually.
Thank you very much. Maybe if we come back to our studio and Mario, maybe you can give us also some insights about the success factors for a really good corporate startup collaboration, because you have now many years of experience in this kind of a field and also worked with startups. Was there maybe a cooperation where you said, okay, this was not so good, we did some learnings?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to be quite open. So when we started our engagement in this sector, so corporate and startups working together, it was a it was a disaster at the beginning. Yeah, although everyone was motivated, but it was a disaster because it is, honestly spoken, in the beginning when you're unexperienced, it is a clash of cultures because everyone knows that startups are really engaged on the product and developing it and bringing it to the market, and that's fine. But as a bigger corporate, you're more on. You have for everything a process, because also without a process the corporate wouldn't work. Yeah, so this is a clash of cultures. The ones are really super agile, the other one is the big one who really needs processes for everything, and out of that you have a different expectation management in the beginning. And if you're unexperienced, you're tapping into that. And for example, we as a corporate, we offered sometimes something which we really couldn't deliver, meaning in selling the product or offering some internal services at a certain time, at a certain quality, because we thought it must be possible. It couldn't be that easy, that hard. But in reality, you really have to work here also on your internal standing within the corporation, because from a telco perspective, in the beginning, everything is important but the core revenues, and the core revenues in our case are 4.6 billion euro. So if someone is coming up with a startup and a startup idea and a startup product and is promising to someone that the product will do in the first year maybe, let's say, 5 million euros, this is a misbalance. So in the beginning, you have to work on this expectation management. You have to work on your standing internal within a big corporate. But then, of course, you need at a certain time a success. And when you have this success, you can work with the success, and then your standing grades up and so on and so forth. And in the meantime, things have changed. So 8 years is a really long period. It would be sad if we wouldn't make things better now. I think we are doing, at least if we are asking and looking at our startups and on the revenue growth that they have and the number of products which we have in our portfolio selling, we see that things are really increasing. So we are doubling the revenues every year with our startups, which is, I would say, quite high growth. Of course, not all startups are at the same pace, but it's normal. Not all startups are at the same stage. Some of them are more ripe. So we learned a lot, but we also really did a lot of failures in the beginning. And now we are at the point where we exactly know what we can offer and also what we cannot. So it's better not to promise too much, but really knowing what you can sell.
Mm-hmm. Expectation management is a really, really important part in this startup corporate cooperation. Michael, how was it with your expectations working together with A1?
What was the expectation? I would like to say, yeah, it was the first. So it was a little bit not difficult for us, but it was a little bit a different world. So all our founders are coming really from the university. We started university, developed some scientific prototyping, I would say. And then we said, okay, we will get out of it together with A1. We will start in a pre-seed phase, developing products and so on. And this takes some time. So it's not so easy. It takes time to do this, to develop products. We had the luck that it was in our product development phase quite a successful way that we had with the first proof of concepts, we got already revenues. So this was a very, very crucial point, I would say, from our side. We had proof of concept, we got some money, not too much, we got some money, we developed products, and then also this trust from A1 side to us was, I think, quite high. And what also was very important from our side, also to work together with the people A1. So I think it's a very crucial point is also that to work together with the people in A1, and you have some partners, you have some Spock, which can you work together is very important. And I think it's also very important that, for example, the C-level wants to know what you're doing, and they say, okay, it's quite good what you're doing. Otherwise, I think you will get into some problems. Also, if you will not have too much revenue
what's
in
your
the first
experience
year or first
on
2 years, for example.
this expectation management?
So it's nice because it resonates to our prior discussion, and I can say two things. The first is there's no one size fits all, meaning when a corporate comes to initiate any kind of collaboration, it must know what it aims for. So the expectation starts from also targeting what is it that you're aiming to achieve with collaboration. And it goes to what Alexandre was referring to in the prior discussion, qualitative and quantitative measures and outcomes. And what was mentioned here that to a corporation that its market cap is 4 billion or its revenues, yearly revenue are 4 billion, 200 million doesn't move the needle. So perhaps, and this goes for qualitative outcomes, there are more important in that scenario outcomes to target, as in partnerships with academia that are so not trivial, and ventures, startups even willing to work with a corporate, and creating wins is something very important. And it resonates to what was said here by Martin, that in the beginning, you wanted revenue and you wanted contribution to the bottom lines, but you can't expect that from an early stage startup. So what if you can reach to something else that you as a corporate cannot build internally, but the startup has? So of course we need to set expectations, but I think that's not the underlying message. The underlying message is there are synergies. They're just different from what maybe the day-to-day KPIs of an organization to the fiduciary duties of making money for its investors and shareholders. What those collaboration can unleash are different kind of synergy, strengthening your technology base, acquisition of very capable personnel that would not have come otherwise, unleashing synergies like a distribution arm on the one hand for a great telco provider, and together with unique technology, unleashing data analytics, etc., from the other hand. So of course, setting expectations, but in a lower level, it's what can you achieve that you couldn't achieve in other channels, and it's not just the revenues. So there, I'm a great believer in various ways to get effect.
Mm-hmm. Mario, you want to add something?
Yeah, if I may jump in here, it's totally right, I think, because as a corporate, you always, or sometimes you come to the decision make or buy also, yeah. And as a corporate, I think, at least at a certain ripeness, you're quite clear at which point you can develop something on your own. If it's close to the core business, of course, you should do it, and you should be able to do it. Otherwise, you will not be a healthy corporate for a longer period. But sometimes there are topics coming up which are related to your business, but not core business, like the big data story, which Michael is, for example, in. So here we had the clear path of developing it on our own with all the risks, CapEx, OpEx, changes in strategy, maybe, whatever comes around. Or we are trying to partner with an external startup like Invenium and Michael, having the time to really develop, not looking at the revenues, because we have a quite smart relationship, because Michael and Invenium gets from our side the mobile floating phone data, but they are really developing the products on the base of this data. So the part from us was without much risk, simply transferring the data, not having a real heavy cash investment into the company, and then working together and having some time to really develop the product and then doing the first wins, like you said. So I think as a corporate, you must be quite clear in which cases you're really trying to target and focus your resources, which you have and which are, of course, limited, on things you really want to do on your own, and where you have maybe weaknesses or chances or blue ocean, and where you should partner. And the clearer this picture gets, the more easy it is really to start with new things.
Mm-hmm. And may I just add that sorry, Alexander, just one sentence.
Alexander?
You
want to? Okay, Shimrit, and then Alexander, yeah?
I let Shimrit
Yeah,
exactly finish it.
Just to add that that usually offices of chief scientists and the European Union are promoting, are helping giving the nudge to corporates that not necessarily to send their hand to their pocket, rather allowing the collaboration between a startup and a corporate by giving it funding. And I think that is beautiful, and not many corporates and not many startups are sending their hands towards. That's what I wanted to add.
Alexandre?
So I completely agree with the earlier viewpoint, like Shimrit was mentioning. But one thing is to Martin. You talked about time. So you said something about, well, if we have longer time, and if revenue is not the first objective, but really what we get out of this. You spoke about that, but then you spoke also about in-house innovation, which I have seen at many examples that they're extremely slow, which is not a bad thing. However, when you see at the increased speed of innovation you're seeing around us, it is the in-house innovation and longer cycles is always a little bit riskier, is to go down in my view. However, when you do a good collaboration is together, and that goes maybe also in the expectation management, is like, how do you collaborate optimally? You can actually like speed up or increase the in-house innovation by having help from outside, where things are going much faster. So I've seen many good examples and many bad examples with this. And then maybe the last point about expectation management, which I want to make too, and that actually in our earlier discussion about corporate venturing is, in my view, a very important point, is the insurance like thing you're buying. So you can buy a very early insurance where you pay less and the risk is higher, but you pay less because you're getting in very early. But you can also do it on a later stage. So I think insurances also around deep tech is a very important thing, and a very viable thing is where the company wants to get involved. How do they want to get involved? With a lot of scientists and researchers, or just with money? So there's many like different like flavors which I would see. And then lastly, of course, is it really strategic? Martin made a point to that before. If it's the core business, then it's more in-house, maybe with a help from outside. If it's less core business, it is from outside. But does it align with the strategic view of the company?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to make clear, you're not Martin, you're Mario. Yeah, and I'm Martin, but no problem. You want to add something to this? Mario?
All fine, no worries. Yeah, now I think we're on the same page. So of course, we are also trying different innovation formats. So having the startup engagement and the startup campus is one thing. But we also tried other formats where we asked our employees to come up with ideas, grouped together as teams, and those employees get then from us all the CapEx and the OpEx they need, and then they get also the time to fulfill their idea. We came to the conclusion that this program is also running quite good, but we also tried a third format where we tried to co-develop. So we call it co-creation. So we are asking our internal units where they have a need for and development and maybe an external input. And then we are asking startups all over Europe if they want to co-create with our departments and the need of our departments. So together a product. Co-creation really means that the department then has some funding to invest into the topic. They need to ensure that the resources are there on the FTE side. So it makes no sense to say, yeah, come on, let's co-develop, and then there is no one here. Yeah, so the commitment must be there, and the same from a startup side. And this was a format we tried last year the first time. And if I'm now comparing our startup engagement or our internal innovation teams, we call it empowering ideas, and then our co-creation, and I'm really comparing it totally neutral, like an external person. I have to admit that the startup program and also the program where the internal FTEs can group together is more successful than this co-creation part, because on this co-creation part, you really have to align that many different stakeholders at the same time: the department, the resources, the funding, then the external startups. Then you need to decide who is the one to partner. So it seems like a very successful program, but it was not that easy to align, and the success rate was, at least the first time, maybe not the highest. We will keep on, we will change a bit, we will adapt, but this is a simple open saying from our first experiences there.
Mario, maybe you can provide us with an example of this co-creation.
One need was that we have some internal departments which are heading into the topic of data security or security products. We are capable to create and to code and to develop on the software side. So also security software on our own. So we are the lucky ones who have really some experienced people there which can create code. But of course, we wanted an external view and external sources of innovation and some external input, and really wanted to co-create with a security startup that was out there. But at the end, it didn't work out, honestly spoken. But this was just one of, I think, 8 or 9 different topics and products which we tried to co-create together.
Mm-hmm. Another interesting question is also the collaboration with small and medium-sized companies, not just with startups. How do you perceive it, like the situation here? Are they also open, or are there some points where you say, okay, there's some Luft nach oben?
I'm not sure. So as we have, out of the top 100 business customers here in this country, I think 90, we are also, of course, doing a lot of innovation workshops with the biggest corporates in this country. Then our startups are part of these workshops if they really fit in from the topic. So the big corporates we are already covering, but there is another format which we're going to try this year. This would be somehow a co-creation between us as a corporate and 2 or 3 other big corporates. So really trying to understand what those corporates need, and then looking for a solution which we may deliver, or which a startup may deliver, or the market may deliver. I think the partner does not care as long as he gets the solution for his pain point. So this is another topic we're going to try. As we are a big corporate, we also, of course, try to serve every customer, but to SME customers, we are here serving more with our existing innovation portfolio and products. And here we are not going into specific workshops. That would be not handleable.
Mm-hmm. May I also hand over the question to the virtual panel, and also Shimrit and Alexandra, how you perceive like also the cooperation with small and medium-sized companies, because might be there also some potential for cooperation between corporates and small and medium-sized companies?
Ladies first.
I think it also resonates to what we spoke before, Alexander, that the answer is of course. And I think once they're more mature, goes also to the insurance that Alexander, once they're more mature, the validation for why you want to collaborate with them is higher, but maybe the penetration point, the price, if it's an investment, or it can be more expensive, or not, maybe in different kind of currency, not necessarily cash. But I think you can see that from, I don't know, recent acquisitions of NVIDIA acquiring Mellanox, and it makes sense that one of the strongest compute companies works with the strongest networking company, and then it leads to a bundle of offering, and it leads to an acquisition. So on my humble perspective, then, of course, different capabilities are brought to the same table to create synergies and unleash value for both sides. The emphasis is for both sides, and it's even stronger when it comes to large organizations than startups, because the forces equilibrium is balancing in that case. So I find it a very interesting point of view.
Perfect. Before I hand over to Alexandre and Michael, I just also want to encourage like the community. If you have questions, just post them. We're gonna collect them, and gonna collect them, and maybe we can also answer them then in the end. Alexandre, what's from your point of view this cooperation between small and medium-sized companies and corporates? Is there potential?
So I have to first counter question you, because I'm not sure what you mean with smaller and medium companies that cooperate. Do you speak about later stage like startups, or do you talk about SMEs? SMEs, okay. If it's SMEs, then I see it, so I agree what Shimrit said before, but I would add there one thing that is important is if you collaborate with startups early or later stage, you have very hungry like teams there, and also founders who are extremely ambitious is to move forward to scale and to ultimately also have an exit. So that is for me a difference than when you, for instance, work with an SME that is highly qualified, excellent SME. However, they are not in it for a potential acquisition later on, but maybe just to have that company and to work with that company for the rest of their life. And I saw that now in Europe. I've never seen it in America. You have to be very careful as an investor as well. When you invest in a company, that you really invest in a team that wants to rock the boat and really become rock stars if you want. And the other ones who say, hey, I rather have smaller concepts all my life long. So that I would see is a big difference. From a corporate perspective, this can be on both sides an advantage and disadvantage, but I prefer to work with highly motivated teams who can help me achieve what I want.
Thank you very much. Michael, I also want to hand over to you. You also have a really interesting project going on, also with A1 and also the COVID crisis. So maybe we can talk also a bit about this, because we have also an international audience, and you can share these insights for this project with us right now.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting what Alexandre said before. What is a later stage startup or an SME? So I think from Invenium side, we are now a little bit later stage startup. But we are already hungry, I would say, very hungry in this case. Also the founders and so on. So about the COVID crisis, what we're doing really is we're doing mobility analytics based on this mobile phone data or floating phone data. And so we do this every time. We do this for the whole country. We do this not only for Austria, we do this also for Slovenia, Serbia, and so on, for the footprint from A1 Telekom Austria Group. And what we are doing now really in Austria is we are analyzing the mobility of the Austrian people based on municipalities, for example. We had the idea at the beginning of the lockdown, and there was always the discussion of the other modelers in Austria, epidemiological modelers and so on. They want to know in a quite good monitoring way how they can analyze the physical and social distancing of people. And we said, okay, there could be a possibility based on the mobility, because mobility is the main impact factor for social distancing or physical distancing in this case. And then we said at the first day when the Austrian government said, okay, we will have a lockdown. This was on Friday. We were sitting together on Saturday. We also discussed it with Mario and the C-level of A1. We developed a dashboard until Sunday in the evening. And on Monday morning, we provided the Austrian government a mobility map for the whole Austrian country for each municipality, per municipality, the trip distribution of the people, if they're staying at home, if they're traveling, for example, between 1 and 10 kilometers and higher than 10 kilometers. And we were monitoring this for the whole crisis. We're doing this now also. We can analyze what was the impact of the lockdown. Did the people really stay at home? What was the reopening of the retail, of the different shops, of the restaurants, and so on? And it was, I think, very, very helpful also in the first time and also now to give a real information about the mobility every day in the same level. Not the absolute value is not so important, more relative value in the timeline, to give and provide the Austrian government how does the Austrian population works all over the country. And this is what we are doing and already are doing here. Was very interesting also for us. Had a lot of media impact, I would say, from different perspectives, also from the data privacy perspective. But
yeah, it had
was
a lot of media impact for sure. A1 was also communicating a lot in the media. So how was it to communicate also like this technical complex field to a wider audience and the public? So it's not an easy task.
Oh, it was not an easy task. You're absolutely right. But I think it's a perfect example of really where you can create a bridge between the buzzword big data, where many people do not know what big data is really, what it is for, what's the benefit out of it. And with that example, you really can show to everyone that there is a value in this data and the value for the public. And this was the key moment. Because we could say, we could explain that this really helps not only the government, but helps everyone to understand better if he's doing the right things. And you're absolutely right. In the beginning, in the first few days when we provided this information, there had been a lot of interaction with Data Protection Authority and data protectors, and where we had to explain that this is really GDPR compliant. And now the thing is gone, is done. It is, of course, GDPR compliant. It's certified and everything. I think now everyone sees the value of this data. Not only the government, we provided this to the Austrian government, Slovenian, Serbian government, and so on. But I think also the public sees it now. We brought this information to the media, to our main TV shows and everything. So everyone is using it and everyone sees the benefit. And that had been the big change within those critical weeks. Yeah.
And you also have other projects going on with the COVID crisis with your startups?
We have another. Within Vinium, we still have something which we will present within the next weeks that really is a big burner on the COVID topic that really will help Slovenian and Austrian governments. So nothing more to say now, but I think this will be really interesting. And regarding our other startups, of course, we have several startups that are engaged in the topic. We have one that's working on a corona tracking and tracing app. Another one, it's SchoolFox, is providing software to the schools and pupils and teachers to communicate, to digitalize the teaching, to do video sessions like we are doing between teachers and pupils. So many startups are into that topic. If we're looking overall on our portfolio, of course, we see that out of the 25 plus startups which we have, some had been hit stronger by the crisis and some really benefited out of it, like always.
Yeah, lots of interesting projects. Definitely SchoolFox you mentioned. It's also really interesting. EduTech from Austria. So also for the international community, check that out. I also want to ask you, Mario, how you're scouting like startups. So from the beginning, how you have keep an overview on the market, which startups are right now on the market, how you do that.
In the beginning, we really invited nearly everyone because we didn't have a feeling for the market. We didn't know what we really are searching for. Of course, now we know it better. After a certain while, as we're having now 25 plus startups, I think they are speaking not only for themselves, but they are also speaking for us because they are spreading the word. They are telling the market that it is useful or maybe also not useful to work with us. So it's up to them to tell the truth, hopefully. And out of that, of course, we will be getting a lot of impact and a lot of leads into. Then we have our own community. So we have our own employees and people which are hunting for startups. So let's call it like this. And once they are bringing a startup and we bring the startup to our startup program and campus, then the FT also gets a reward, so really cash for bringing the startup. Then we have our network in the CE region. So out of all of that factors, our leads are coming, and then we are negotiating and having a look on those startups which we really think that they can help us. And of course, like mentioned in the beginning, we're also investing into startup if it's really interesting for us. But here we are a bit different than the other participants here, because we are not a classical corporate VC. We are here very, very egocentric, let's call it like that, and we're really investing in those where we really see that they are helping us, like Invenium, for example.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mario. I also want to hand over now to the VCs. So how you keep an overview about the startups and what's your how you achieve like a cooperation? Maybe Alexandre.
Okay. Just to rectify something from before, I want to say that I mean, of course, all the companies that can work with, or SMEs that can work with larger corporations are hungry, Michael, because you made that point before. But I was more saying, if you do have investors like breathing down your neck and really pushing you forward, that you have no choice than to become hungry and even more hungrier. But that was more my point. So anyway, about corporations and looking for companies. So I did not understand 100% your question, Martin. Can you maybe...
So how you interact with startups at the very beginning? What are the success factors?
After I invested or before, when I'm sourcing them?
How you before the investment?
Before the investment. So I want to know about the team. So for me, the team is number one. Are they able to execute? Are they able to clearly have a vision and really go after that vision and execute on it? Then the second thing I need to know is about the product, obviously. So if it's a deep tech, or what Martin did also, technology transfer, I want to understand if this technology or this invention is really also able to become a product. What is the roadmap? What is there the exact next steps in order to get a product market fit and to launch? Then I would like to understand the market, obviously, how big the market is. Is there a market need? And most importantly, what I would like to also understand when I'm dealing very early with companies is what is the problem they're going to try to solve. And this is also combined with a value proposition. So what is the value proposition really they're bringing to the table in order to solve that? And if I see that everything there, I have an understanding about this, I think it makes sense. Then I work with larger corporates also to understand, or experts as you can call them. And if they also see a need or value in there, and I push forward and I make the investments. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. And how is like the COVID crisis right now having an impact on your portfolio?
I had a lot of phone calls about that. Yes, it depends. So in my portfolio, there is a company, for instance, that is more like with tourism involved. To that, of course, had a big impact, although they're very, very creative. Then you have also like fintech companies, etc. So they all. It was interesting to see how these teams. Again, it comes down to the team, how they react when you have such a crisis mode like suddenly coming. You have like some people who say, hey, look, we're not gonna change anything, we just need more money. Other people who immediately said, okay, number one objective is the survival of the company. What are we going to do about this? Are we going to furlough people? Are we going to change our priorities, etc.? So with COVID, for me, it was a huge learning, and to really see how these CEOs and how these teams react with this. And there were some amazing examples. There were also less, of course, but really good examples.
Thank you very much. Mario, maybe you also can give us some insights how like COVID-19, the crisis, changed maybe your cooperation with startups in working together with startups right now.
Yeah, first of all, we had to ensure that really everything is in place also in our physical campus. So we had to ensure that the startups are really going out of the office. So things like that. So really small things you also have to take care of when you're running a program like this. And after that, of course, we did our steerings with all the different startups like we always do. And we also saw that different startups react different depending in which vertical they are active and depending how much this vertical had been hit by the COVID crisis. So just to give you an example with Ubik, it's someone who is optimizing fleet car sharing. This company had been hit by the crisis super hard in the beginning. Now, as transport is coming back and many people are avoiding to take public transport, we see that Ubik, for example, reinvented themselves because they are pushing, they are disinfecting and cleaning also those cars which they are optimizing for the car sharers. So it's a dumb saying, but it's a true saying. The crisis always is also a chance for someone. And in that case, there was a reinvention there. For other startups, we clearly saw what was mentioned earlier. We had seen startups that did a tremendous cash saving. So liquidity and cash flow had been priority number one. So meaning offsetting people, really reducing nearly all the costs which you can reduce or which you can lower. For other startups, they have not had such a hard impact. The business simply continued. And for other startups, like for Invenium, at least from the PR, but also from the customer's perspective and lead perspective, this had been a big chance.
Shimrit, you wanted to mention something?
Maybe just on the previous topic where Alexander, words of wisdom, I'll just add that when I look at startups also, there is another tweak that I invest in deep technologies because that's a way to mitigate risk. So when it comes to companies that their idea is going viral or some sort of community, then it's a factor. It's lucks and statistics, and you can't really control it. So on that sense, crushing team, and I'll add maybe the best team for the mission, because sometimes best teams are not necessarily the best teams for the mission. A potential huge market, whether I'm a strategic investor or a pure financial investor. And the other thing is that the technology really needs to matter. It really needs to crush the competitor in the lab and not just be another twig. So it needs to differentiate. It can also differentiate on its go-to-market, etc. But I need to see a differentiation on the technology itself. And it's interesting here on liquidity, because I was speaking with many portfolio managers now, and the assumption was for every company not to think that it's going to have revenue the next 18 months, and any company that could survive that continued its business as normal as possible. But I also see more advantages. I was asked to do some scouting for companies that are sitting on heavy liquidations and see this as an opportunity to acquire technological company in gaming, in other areas, where instead of a company crashing, this is a form of a new synergy coming out of a bad thing. But one company needs liquidation, and maybe it was just about to raise money and it couldn't. And here you have an opportunity to buy cheaper an amazing team and consolidate it into your corporate. So it goes cross country. I see Eastern European gaming companies looking at Israel to to use their liquidity to buy amazing studios of gaming, etc. So that's more opportunities emerging out of pandemic situation.
Thank you very much, Mario. You want to add something? No, okay, we could just
totally on the same page. That's all I wanted to say, because we see in different sectors, that this crisis is also a chance. Let's take the aerospace sector, or let's take airline sector. Wanted to say it's also a chance for them. Of course, for some employees not, but for the sector itself, it is taking out some capacity, maybe making things different. The same will happen in tourism, to be honest. It's at least something we are predicting here for Austria. Austria is quite heavily depending on tourism. So let's assume that the tourism will not come this summer or next winter season because the pandemic situation is still here, or will not come in the usual way. Then, of course, also here, some things will change. Capacity will go out of the markets. But this is also a chance for many existing market players for winning with their portfolio, for winning with their quality, maybe achieving different price levels and so on. So totally agree. Whatever sector you're looking into, for some, it's always a chance. Yeah.
And may I add, it's cutting fat. May I be blunt? It's an opportunity to make order in your house. Every house, in theory, can at least cut 5 to 12%. And I'm not just talking about travel expenses, which are now cut to zero. I'm talking about you can do things in a more effective manner. And in the day and day, when you're rushing into achieving your KPIs, you can't just stop and make order and dust everything. Now it was an opportunity for efficiency.
Michael, maybe you can also give us an insight on your startup and the COVID crisis, which impact it has, because you have like really interesting projects going on regarding the COVID crisis. So.
Yeah. It's what Mario said before. It was PR. The PR topic was great. So we had for every second day in some media, in the TV show in the evening and so on. It was a big topic for us from PR side, but you cannot live from PR side. So it's also relevant to have the revenues in this case. We're quite lucky in this case that all the analytics, for example, in the mobility area, all the customers were interested also during the crisis. For example, we are doing for the Austrian railway operator, the analysis, how many people are traveling by train, for example. And so there was really a big impact also to give to their leading board the information, what is going now. So how are the passengers? How is the reduction of passengers? What are problems, for example, and now how they're going back to life, to normal life, for example. We have another branch. This is the tourism. We're doing really a lot of analysis in the area of tourism. We lost until now not really a customer, but I think we will have in the summer or during the summer, they will say, okay, what can we do with our project? We will restart for example, in the winter season and so on. So we will have a little bit of an impact already. But hopefully all the new projects and leads on which we're working now, will come in this case, and then this percentage of lower revenue in tourism will not be a problem for the FTEs, for the company, and so on. I think it will. Hopefully, and I know also from our KPIs and from the numbers we see,
very much for sharing this insight. Unfortunately, we are coming to an end. We just have 10 minutes more, and I want to use this time to sum it up. Maybe we can talk about the trends which are coming up in regard of startup and corporate collaboration. So Mario, maybe what are, from your point of view, the big trends for the next future?
Well, I think there are people there who may know it better than me, but from us, or from our perspective, it's becoming a bit more difficult because things are going more into deep tech. So it's for us as a corporate more difficult to understand what's really out there on the market. So for example, if we are asking and looking for solutions, let's say, that may help us to optimize in the cloud business, then it's becoming also a bit difficult for us really to see which is the right one or might be the right one. So things are becoming more and more specialized. As long as we are on our core competences, of course, we have the knowledge and the capabilities to really see and to judge what really fits to us. But in general, I would say it's a trend which is going on nearly everywhere. So if I'm looking at bigger VCs or bigger VCs here in Austria, they are also specializing within their own organization, meaning that more and more teams are dedicated to more to the same topic because they need to acquire the knowledge, because all the things and topics are becoming more connected and therefore more complex and therefore a bit more difficult to understand. And the same happens for us. In the beginning, it was quite easy to acquire some or to work together with some startups, because we have had some open topics where we really saw that we need some external solutions to cover those topics. But now we have a decent portfolio already existing. So whatever we are gonna add or what we need to add now, really, like you said before, really needs to bring a value add. And it may become a bit more complex in the future to really understand what fits to us and what not. And as we're trying to play a quality game and not a quantity game, it's of course important to make the right choice.
Thank you very much. I hand over to Shimrit. So what are the big trends in this startup corporate collaboration?
I think maybe let's look at the recent history, and at least by sound of it, it sounds that maybe the COVID changed the balance a little bit, at least in the Israeli perspective, where startups are gained more and more power, like market of employers versus market of employees. And now they say that due to the COVID, it's a market of employers. It used to be here, at least, a market of employees, because the quality employees are very much in demand. And same goes here. I think I like the humbleness, the humility that the COVID reminded us all. And I hope that will cut the noise, the way I call it, the long tail. I think if I can relate to what Mario said, the reason it's harder for you, may I add, not only the experience and expertise in market of specialties, it's also because there is a lot of noise. It's harder to differentiate between 1,000 of startups that are claiming, at least by their narrative, to do the same thing, and every one of them is better and has different superlatives. It would have been better for you to maybe allocate your attention and do a thorough due diligence on 10 of them. So I think the least strong will not survive the impact of waves like this pandemic, etc. And I hope it would leave the stronger startups and stronger claims. It will also kill some of the really good startups that didn't have the runway. I see hypes. You call it trends, and I see hypes. I don't like hypes. Hypes is when something is not yet mature, but everyone is just running like crowd. So we witnessed it with drones. It was premature. I myself had a company that enabled zero latency HD, and it enabled drone racing, and the market didn't pick up. And maybe now it comes to maturity and there is more usability, and we hear about shipments utilizing drones, but it wasn't there before. So I'm very cautious when a trend is actually a hype. And I think my 2 cents of it is always do what Alexander said. Look at the team, look at the market, but analyze the market not by the talk, analyze the market by the amount of walk. So if you could see that there are evidence for growth, if you can see that there are evidence for not just investment, because investment is not necessarily evidence. Investment can maybe indicate a hype. Talk to your market and understand. And so I don't I don't try to identify trends, or unless you want to make a quick buck. You make, I mean, Zoom or the other Zoom, I mean, the Zoom that isn't Zoom, it leveraged the trend and it's doing something completely, or the hype, it does something completely different. So hypes / detecting trend can be also a double-edged sword. So I would just keep my head down, do thorough due diligence, look at the team, look at the technology, look at the potential, look at the value that it unleashes, and if it's really needed. And that's what I do in every scenario. I hope that answers or shares some thoughts.
Thank you very much. I want to hand over to Alexander. What are the big trends in the cooperation between startups and corporates in the next future?
Okay, so I'm quick. I think we have another 3 minutes only. So I don't know about the trends. I cannot really see the trends. But one thing I like a lot is when you see now at COVID what happened, it is really a natural flush out of a lot of companies that were built on hype or on ideas, but there was no really an execution. But it's actually a really great time for a A1 or A1 or for other corporates is to work with these corporations, because you can really see who is really somebody who brings great value add to the table, and not just a lot of fluff where they hope that you help them afterwards with like finished to develop a product, but they're not really there with what they promise you. I think it also comes all down to value proposition. I can only always say it again and again, what is the value proposition for A1 and what is the value proposition for the startup, and how they work really together, and how this is like defined. And there may be one trend, if you want. I don't want to really label it like that. I have seen in the past a lot of corporates also making a lot of bets with very small amounts. So for large corporates, 500,000 is not a lot, or even a like $250,000, and they put it left and right, where they think, okay, this could be something that is interesting of us later, and brings in that example, for instance, like data to the table that we need. I think now it again shifted more to the, okay, with who can I really work? Who can I really achieve my strategic objectives I have as a corporate? And that again all comes down to the value add. That's my view.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Michael, I also want to ask you, what do you think? What are the big trends?
Trends, it's really difficult. Also, what the other said, I totally agree to Andre. What he said in the last sentence. What are corporates interested in? What is the main focus of the corporate? And then to find the startup with the hungry team, as you said before, and a good product, and also the products have to fit to the corporate. And then there could be also, there's a possibility to be a quite good strategic partner, and to work together also in the future. And also this team from corporate and Vinium has to fit together.
Thank you very much, Mario, also coming here to the studio and sharing your insights with us. And there are super interesting cooperations you have going on with A1. And I also say thank you to the community, to the podium community. Thank you to the other panel speakers. Yeah, and I hope to see you on the main stage soon. Like the program is going on, it's the last day of the conference. And yeah, we're gonna wrap this up, everything together then. Bye-bye.